to, and if you're watching us on October 1 at 8 a.m., then you're watching us live. I love the clamshell of Trump there that you had up for us, Mark. That was really cute on both sides. Our show tonight is Impeach Trump, and indeed, this is Halloween. We have Halloween coming up, and I think Halloween is not nearly as frightening to most of us as Trump is by far. And also, we're going to talk to Moses a little bit, too. He went to a very special place this last week. Where were you, Moses?
I actually went to Iowa. There was a very big presidential gathering, a big presidential primary event in Iowa called the Steak Fry.
Oh.
And I got the chance to meet a couple presidential candidates, and I got a chance to talk politics with the Midwest. And boy, you talk about a different political environment there than it is out here in Oregon, and we'll go into that.
Good.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I heard that a lot of the Democrats there got in trouble with, well, some of the Republicans are saying, steak fry? You guys are vegans. I mean,
well, and I'll go into that. I'll go into that. But there's a very good story about Cory Booker manning the stove at the vegan burger grill. So
anyway, we'll say that.
We'll go into that.
So why do we have impeached Trump? Why is this a topic for us tonight?
Well, I venture to say it's a very timely topic, especially given the fact that the transcript of the conversation that Trump had with the Ukrainian president, where he attempted to get him to very clearly stated in the transcripts, had him wanted him to have a favor done for Trump, and the basis of that was this right-wing deep state theory based off of the servers. I mean, you can get very deep with it. Long story short, it provided the evidence and the impetus that the Democrats in the House needed to finally and once and for all go forward with the impeachment proceedings.
Right. It was certainly a quid pro quo. I don't know if you had a chance to see the 60 Minutes show. McCarthy was on, and so Pelley was telling him, he said, "Well, this is what was said. You can have these things, but we have a suggestion, though." And McCarthy said, "You added another word." And Pelley said, "No." And he said, "Though." And Pelley said, "It's in the document."
Yeah,
and this guy is so brain dead, he couldn't even read what he was trying to deny. Of course, he went and spun onto a different argument.
Oh, of course.
I think they're more brainwashed.
Yeah.
Brainwashed, but I tell you this, I think they're all compromised at this point because they're in so deep. I mean, Barr cannot admit that he was actually on that phone call, even though it's been proven that he was on that. Pompeo. And they're all denying and avoiding the actual topic. Following the talking points that they accidentally shared with the Democrats and with the rest of the media a couple days ago.
McCarthy says, "I don't go by talking points." I never think. Sure he has.
Between the transcripts and Trump's actual truth on the matter, the only truth that we've seen him speak, when he was talking about what he said to the Ukrainian president, he pretty much indicted himself right there.
Well, it's funny. You're right. I mean, what Trump said matched the description so closely what the whistleblower had. I mean, it just matched it so much. You also had Republicans were saying that, oh, no, what he said was not, did not go to crime, was not criminal and so on, too, did not, intend to do this. And so the Republicans were asked, some of them was, how can you make it more incriminating? I mean, how could it be more incriminating than it is? And they couldn't come up with a thing. So, it's not incriminating. Well, how can you make it more incriminating? It's pretty incriminating.
Something else that's really interesting is so there is 64 people have transitioned through the Trump administration in the past 23, 24 months almost. Well, we're past 2 years, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
So anyway, 64 people have transitioned through, and a great number of those 64 people were well-informed, historical representatives of our government, of our military. They're gone. They were keeping this guy on the rails.
On the rails.
They were keeping him as honest as they could possibly keep him. Now he thinks everybody's gone, so there is nobody there to tell him, "I'm sorry, sir, but that's illegal. You can't do that," asked Tillerson. And So now he thinks he just doesn't know what he doesn't know.
Mattis, yeah, McMarthy, or whatever his name is.
McCarthy?
Yeah, no, it's the other general was there too, McMaster.
Oh, McMaster, yeah,
These
yeah.
guys, yeah, McMaster is.
Isn't he gone now, too?
Yes, he is. Oh, yeah, he's
Yeah.
gone. And Mad Dog Mattis is gone too.
So that's what
Stabilizing.
happens to the world when you don't know what you don't know, and you try to play off as being legal when it's not.
And also, you don't care. Are you familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect? Ever heard that fallacy, Dunning-Kruger effect? Very famous fallacy. It goes like this. There's a lot of people who think they're competent, but they don't know that they're not. That is, they just don't know how little they know, so they parade themselves as being very knowledgeable. Look it up in Wikipedia, Dunning-Kruger effect.
Okay.
And certainly,
I don't use
Trump is one of those
Wikipedia.
guys.
I'll use the dictionary.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest challenge that we have right now is
Write
that,
that down for
going
me.
back to your point, is the checks and the balances, Sherry,
Yes, yes.
that Trump, that are built into our government, that are built into the executive branch, and systematically through not filling positions and through just basically ignoring norms
Exactly.
and laws, Trump is looking out for only one person here, and that's himself.
Yes.
And it's really, and there's a pro and a con to this. The pro is that he's much more accountable, much more blatant in his high crimes and misdemeanors, and I feel
doesn't
like
hide them.
he's not. Yeah, exactly. He's not hiding them.
Because
So
he
it's
doesn't know
making
any better.
well, it's actually falling right into the plan that I think that Nancy Pelosi had, Speaker Pelosi had, was to basically allow him to prove his guilt on his own. Yes.
Yeah.
The challenge is, though, is that all of the norms that he is busting right now, all of these, the rule of law, for instance, the subpoenas, ignoring of subpoenas, the lying to the media, the presenting of false stories about Biden and his son, in a blatant attempt to try to hide and to try to obfuscate the real issue here. I'm afraid this might become the norm, and that's what's really scary. We have less than a year and a half until the election to try to change it, to try to reestablish that norm. Boy,
I have a
we're in a real
question
social
about
crisis.
that I've been trying to find an answer to. I hear a lot of the talking heads and a lot of people in Congress, Elizabeth Warren and Sanders and Kamala Harris, all of them saying that these are outside of our norms. These are outside of how we view the world in the United States and how we view our country and our values and where we stand in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear other people, such as yourself, saying, oh my God, this might become the norm. How can it become the norm if it's illegal?
Mm-hmm.
If we have laws to prevent these things from happening today, how can it be the norm?
Well-
Why is this person not being held responsible for his actions?
Well, I think
Any
there's-
of them.
Well, very true. I think there's two issues going on here. It's the cooperation of the Republicans, especially in the Senate, that are going to sooner or later, if they have any values, slowly peel away and work towards that rule of law and go against Trump. And it's starting to happen a little bit now. There is that. And then there's also whether or not the legal system has the ability, the courage and the ability to be able to actually charge him for these things, whether it be now while he's president or afterwards when he's no longer president. I mean,
But we have laws on the books.
Oh, but
The
wait a second.
people holding those laws back are human beings.
Right. But
Well,
see,
remember McConnell, who said, we're not going to put Merrick Garland up for a vote
Yes.
in the Senate, pardon me, the Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
I mean, they've evaded, Moscow Mitch, he was known because
Yeah.
because he wasn't providing the money necessary to secure the election.
But that wasn't necessarily a law. He didn't have to bring Merrick Garland up in an
It had
election
never-
year.
It had never not
It had
been done.
never
It
happened
never-
before. Yes, I get it. But there's no law against it,
The
though.
greed of these people, the willingness to break laws knows no bounds. Let's take, I mean, the last, in terms of Nixon being impeached, he was impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors.
He was going to be.
Well, they started proceedings.
Yes.
Yeah. But for Clinton, it was like a private affair he had.
Yes.
Jesus, I mean.
A blowjob.
Yeah, as it were. And so, but the idea that you get impeached for that.
Right.
Now we have Trump, who's putting babies in cages.
Yep.
I mean, who's
Oh, not only that, but he's sacrificing all of our national security. He's breaking our normal national values, everything that we hold dear, he's destroying.
And
systematically.
and it's ironic too, you know, he's taking the same, this is not new for Trump, this idea of pushing the limits, the legal limits when it comes to his interests. And, you know, he comes from a history of over 10,000 lawsuits that have been filed against this man.
I know, it was a large number.
And so the idea that he's just playing his regular strategy with all of this, and that's to delay, and that's to lawyer up, and to use the lawyers to take as long as possible so that sooner or later he might be able to have it go away, or the people that are forget, you know. So the challenge is that, yes, it's going through the legal system right now, but he's doing everything in his power as well, with using our Attorney General, unfortunately, to make sure that he's not being prosecuted.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And what about threatening the whistleblower?
Yes.
The
with harm.
whistleblower's
Yes.
life is right now on the line if it's not for his legal team to
But
keep him protected.
Agreed, and that's so,
That
is amazing
itself
to
is
me.
Him or her,
impeachable.
but yeah.
Yeah, him or her.
Well,
They keep
the fact that
referencing a guy.
the fact that he would want to confront, he would have the audacity to make a public statement that he wanted to confront the whistleblower, and you know, like it would be appropriate, even though there are laws that have been
Yes,
created
anonymous,
to protect
right.
the identity of
You
cannot-
whistleblowers,
you
so that
cannot
they will be
penetrate.
more encouraged
Yep.
to be able to do this. You know, and it's interesting too, and
They're
that kind of
talking about
relates
that
back to
today.
Nancy Pelosi too. You know, did you know that Nancy Pelosi back in the 90s was on the Senate Intelligence Committee that created those laws that apply to whistleblowers?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
she's very knowledgeable about the use of these laws and the breaking of these laws. And so, you know, it's like the other day she actually said to Trump, "You're in my wheelhouse."
Yes.
When Trump actually had the audacity to call her to try to see if she would be willing to
Suspend this.
or to lessen the pressure that she was putting in. She said point blank, "Mr. President, you're in my wheelhouse now."
Yeah.
And what a wonderful line for her to say. And it's obviously working towards where she wants to go.
I had somebody come up to me and tell me how horrible Nancy Pelosi was, and I asked them why. I said, I actually have a lot of respect for her. She's the first woman Speaker of the House, and she's the first to become female Speaker of the House twice. Why? To me, that is something to be honored and respected for, because you are a leader. And she was saying, oh, she doesn't do anything and she lies all the time. And I said, do you know Congress has put through, or the House has passed over 200 bills.
Important bills,
And put
yeah.
to the Senate, and it's Mitch McConnell and the Republicans in the Senate that are holding them up.
Right.
If you go on I forget the name of the website, you'll excuse me, but it's a website that shows all of the House bills and Senate bills that are either in process or have been initiated or have passed or failed. And today I heard 230 bills have passed through the House into the Senate and are just sitting there.
Wow.
So don't,
But, you know, the
but
thing-
these are what these people who don't pay attention like we do, or like
Yeah.
people, the talking heads do, that's what they're told.
But Republicans, once again, Republican spin machine is incredible. They say the Democrats are doing nothing, and then they're saying also the Democrats are responsible for gutting insurance, you know, gutting
Yeah.
job protections, you know, pensions and so on. No, it is the Republicans that are doing
Yeah.
it.
Well, I like to think, though, that the arguments for coming from the talking points that are coming from Fox News are being heard with a very skeptical ear of late.
More, yeah.
I think that people are finally beginning to understand that this is propaganda and it's talking points that's coming from the Fox News stations, and it's all part of a collective focus away from the real facts when it comes to this impeachment. But I give a lot of credit to the public, to the voters now, because polling is showing that slowly but surely, even some Republicans now, 20% of Republicans are beginning to understand that these are serious impeachable offenses, and that Trump has crossed the line with that phone call to the Ukraine. So I'm excited to see where all this goes. I think, this might be that. It's funny how the political roads work. What was it that this?
My hopes up.
What was it about this episode, this latest example, that is causing such a tipping point?
You've heard the reasoning?
Well, because it's so simple.
So simple.
It's simple to understand. People can understand.
Nice country you got. So, you help me and...
Yeah, I mean, it was right out of Godfather,
Yes.
The Godfather.
Wouldn't it be horrible if something happened to it? Type
Yeah,
stuff,
nice
right?
country.
Exactly.
It'd be bad if the tanks got there, But you can help me, though. You can create lies in the crowd strike machine, or whatever, the thing in Ukraine. Supposedly, it's all a fever dream. But the idea that a server was taken out of the United States and given to Ukraine, not at all interfered with, and on that, there's proof that the Democrats are responsible for hacking the election. This is fever dream swamp stuff.
Right. But he's trying to avoid the real issue. He's trying to confuse people.
Yeah.
He's trying to put out multiple narratives so that we have examples like what you just gave of people that are confused by what the actual positions are.
I was watching Nicole Wallace today in Cummings. I think that if you saw her, you know who I'm referring to.
Oh, love her.
She's great. And she said the thing that is driving him crazy is that he cannot point to a person and say, you're the whistleblower. He might know who he is or she is, but he can't, it's apparently can't, but with everyone else, he points them out and he says, you're stupid, you're, whatever, just terrible
give him a
personal attacks.
nickname.
Can't give him can't give him a nickname, but it's driving him crazy.
Right.
And, let me just say two other things just about the Fox News, really interesting. You had Judge Napolitano, who said, this is not treason, but this is a crime. This is definitely a crime. And also you had Chris Wallace ream out Stephen Miller on Sunday.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was so cool. He's such a fool.
Yeah. But Fox, so it appears to be drifting. Some people are on the station trying to drift away from Trump because they figure after Trump, what are they going to do? And Paul Ryan now, who was on the board at Fox, say, let's move away from Trump. So interesting.
Oh, really?
It's interesting when the rats jump off the ship. It's a little political expediency for them to be able to distance themselves from Trump. And it's slowly but surely happening too. I mean, Shep Smith, the head of an actual reputable journalist over there at Fox, has been arguing and fighting with some of those personalities from the other side, the entertainment side of Fox News. And it's fun to watch them kind of beat up on each other about this, as far as not being able to stay on the same page, or the same talking points. And once again, it comes back to the simplicity of the image that you have there of Don Corleone making that man an offer that he can't refuse. I mean, that epitomizes, that just right there summarizes the whole situation there. It was a Godfather situation, and anybody can understand that. And so Trump, this is going to be something, this is going to be one of those Jenga blocks that is going to take Trump down. I don't know if it's going to be the one that finally dumps the tower, but it is certainly making it a lot more wobbly.
Well, Barney Franks was on Bill Maher's show this last Friday, and he said, frankly, I think it was, he said this is Trump is committing murder, and this accessory to murder. And Bill Maher said, what do you mean? And he said, by not getting those missiles to prevent the tanks from attacking, it's causing the death of these Ukrainian citizens.
Wow.
And,
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but blithely he goes along, no, not my fault, it's okay.
And we don't know what we don't know yet. I mean, we understand that there's been other conversations with other world leaders that have, like in Australia, and I think there was one in Italy, where Trump is trying to look out for his own best interest to make them do something that actually benefits him.
A witchcraft, and they're trying to find information, make it up, and so on, too. That's exactly what he's doing in Ukraine, too.
Right.
Not find it necessarily, but bring it forth. If you have to make it up, Go for it, that's fine.
And where was the outrage when he actually stood up on a candidate stage and said, encouraged Russia, if you can hear me,
Yes.
we'd like to hear give those emails. The irony of this is just amazing to me. You know who warned us all? You know who warned us all in 2015, 2016?
I'm sorry, who?
Hillary Rodham Clinton warned us all about this. She called out every single thing that he's been doing.
Yep.
So all of you that were dogging on Hillary Clinton, you know what? Shut up. I just, she warned you guys, and you receive what you receive now because of that.
Well, no, I don't.
I feel.
No,
I mean,
anyway,
it's one of those things. It's one of those situations
Trump
where
won.
she tried to tell us.
And well, Trump won. I think because of, among other things, voter suppression, the Russians and so on too. But voter suppression was really up there. But recently, Trump was saying, "Oh, he's been over-examined, so much. It's a terrible, terrible thing." And Hillary Clinton said, "Oh, let me tell you about being overly examined. You have not been examined as I have been. I mean, she's
Right.
I mean, wasn't she in the House and the Senate for
11
hours? Yeah, I mean, just
11
went on and on and on and on. And Pompeo was grilling her too at that time. So,
Exactly.
Trump, you think you've been grilled? No. And also, Hillary tells the truth. You also had who was it? Lewandowski, right? Who says,
my
"I don't have to
goodness.
tell the. I don't. They'd asked, well, did you tell the truth on the media? And he said, well, I wasn't under oath, so, I don't have to tell the truth. You go,
See, right there, that's the fundamental philosophy of all of these Trump supporters right now. I don't have to tell the truth, or I'm blind to the truth. And it just blows me away. I just don't understand that. I do understand that. I mean, it's attractive to the base emotions in people of greed and defiance, and I don't know.
well, it's certainly not fair play. I mean, the idea that I can lie and you have to tell the truth, and if you make even an imprecision, then I'm going to jump on you. Right. But that's just crazy stuff.
Well, he lied to the American people just based on
Trump?
Yeah, just based on false advertising. He
How about
should be
birth certificate?
impeached.
Birth certificate.
Yeah, the birther.
How about also remember one of the things that came out this last week too, really interesting. In the meeting you had with Ciliak and Lavrov, he said, you interfered with our elections. We interfered. No worry about that. That's okay. So that is collusion, clearly. And if Robert Mueller had that, and it turns out probably that he didn't have access to those words, he would have clearly found collusion.
Well, and see, it leads back to your point of having an individual to be able to besmirch. He was able to besmirch Robert Mueller's reputation and the report because he had that one person that he could focus on his vitriol, his tweets on. And I think that's, this whistleblower situation with the president of Ukraine, he cannot. You raise a really good point. He just can't. And so he's kind of flailing in his arguments,
Well, and they have proof he held up funding.
Right.
Yes.
I didn't know that
Yes.
until just the other day, that they actually have verified documentation that he held up funding.
The Department of Defense wanted to go through, State Department wanted to go through, everyone except.
Yep.
And also, I hate the freaking Republicans who say,
don't know why.
well, Trump made this thing go through, not only with incredibly strong duress. That is a lie. That is
Everything that he's done.
Well, and hey,
That's
let's
good.
face
It's
it. I
under
mean,
duress.
history is not going to judge, toads like Lindsey Graham, who on one hand,
clutching his
That's
pearls.
good.
right. Well, on one hand, there's
Vitriol.
video. Right.
Yeah.
On one hand, in the 90s, he makes statements saying that
Purity. We have to restore purity to the office.
To the
It's not
office,
just crimes, it's purity.
Right, and for any kind of a lie, he should be immediately impeached and taken out of office. But yet, of course, when it's Trump in there, he just seems to, forget that and is caught up in the cult of
We
personality.
have some rules for Republicans, some rules for Democrats.
I swear to God, I think the Russians have dirt on Lindsey Graham and Mitch and Moscow Mitch and on Trump, and they realize that they're in so deep they have no other choice but to take these types of attitudes towards it, to take these types of positions on it, because they realize that if the real truth starts to come out about their involvement and their collusion and their being blackmailed by the Russian interests. I mean, let's talk about the NRA, for instance.
Yes.
I mean, and the
Money from the
insidiousness
Ruskies.
of the Russian oligarchy's money within the NRA and the effort and how it financed voter suppression and how it financed some of these the
Right.
Trump campaign.
You don't have much of a sense of humor about that.
Oh, that one irks me.
Well, how about the NRA
irks me.
recently contacted Trump, and Trump was concerned about this, how to dispel the investigation. And LaPierre says, you know what, I will help you with figuring out how to do it. I will contribute money to that as long as you don't push any gun control bills.
In other words, a quid pro quo.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, but that's illegal, but it's also just hideous. I mean, the idea of more guns on the streets, more people being killed.
Oh, and what's hideous is the fact that that's doing business as usual in the Trump administration. And that's what's hideous about it. Is if that's one example of it, you know that there are multiple examples.
Under the rug, you bet.
Yeah, I
Off
mean,
stage,
be it from everything from pharmaceutical companies to investments in South Carolina and in Kentucky and those states that.
The Russians that were trying to,
exactly.
the oligarch. Yeah.
I mean, it's just so deep.
Kentucky, right? $200 million thing for McConnell, the aluminum plant, Derek whatever his name,
Polakaska or
something like that. And who was on our list of people not to do any business with, but McConnell got him off the list, and now he's building this thing. Derek Polakaska. Anyway.
You've got it, yeah.
Pretty close.
Oh, you're right there.
Let's just say who we are. We are Progressive Radio on TV. We are here the first Tuesday of the month, and today must be the first Tuesday, and it is of the month, and we're here from 8 to 9. And please, if you're interested in finding out more about us, you can give a call or come and visit us here at 1101 Jackson Street, Oregon City, 97045, Oregon City, 97045. And our number here is 503-650-0275. So if you want to find out about the services here at Willamette Falls Community Media Center, give them a call. The nicest of people. Thank you so much for considering, and they put up with us for a long time, too. So I'm very pleased with that.
And if you see me tweeting, call us. I'm asking people to call us and tell us how you feel about the prospect of Trump being impeached, if you want him to be, or if you feel that we're going overboard and the Democrats are crazy. Call us. Tell us.
Okay, you can call
You
us.
can chat with us on YouTube, too.
503-650-0198 is our phone line. 503-650-0198. And now, let's go back to Iowa. Let's get rid of the impeachment for just a second. What happened in Iowa?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think my faith in the political process was restored here recently by a visit to Iowa. The best way to describe what I did last week was I was a political tourist. I decided to go to Des Moines, Iowa, and participate in a historical gathering of presidential candidates called the Steak Fry. Steak, S-T-E-A-K, Fry, F-R-Y. Now, the Steak Fry, what the Steak Fry is it was originally started by Senator Tom Harkin many years ago. And what he would do is he'd pull this off every 2 years as a show of Democratic Party member unity in Iowa. And it's evolved into this very large gathering during presidential candidates during that season. And it's the first opportunity that they have to be able to kind of flex their muscle and to be able to show their grassroots strength. And so what happens at the Steak Fry is that all of the candidates that are in the race, they have these defined little areas where all of their supporters come, and they have these big to-dos and sign waving and horns and bands and marching bands and drum bands. And they all gather and they walk from their camp area to the actual Steak Fry. And then at the Steak Fry, everybody has a little section set up, and they have a grill set up, and they do the promotion, the obligatory grilling of a steak for the cameras, the national cameras, and then they give a speech. And
Are there different cooking areas for different candidates, or they're all
every
the same
candidate? No, every candidate seems to have their own setup. But there is actually no. I take that. Well, they have their own setup, but then they have there's a master grill.
Master grill.
Right, where many of them go, and that's where the film op is at. You know, to be able to watch the Joe Biden or whomever grill a steak. But the masses, the other 12,000 people that attended this event, We got fed through a different line, and we did receive a steak. It was, it was a pretty good steak. It was and then you got some potato salad.
How much did it cost? You had to pay for it?
It was like $30, $35. But many of the campaigns would buy tickets for people to, if they would go and show their support for that particular candidate. And so, in regards to the food, the steak fry, they also had, for the very first time, thanks to presidential candidate Senator Cory Booker, they had a vegan option.
Great,
and that was the vegan burger.
Great.
They had a vegan burger grill going.
Right.
And so he was there doing his thing. And but then, of course, we had everybody else. They had Cory Booker and his vegan, and everybody else was eating meat and chicken. So it was quite the event. I mean, because you get to, Iowa has the distinction of being the first state in the union that has a presidential primary. And it's not a primary as it is a caucus, the first confrontation or the first actual opportunity for voters to have their say about a presidential candidate that's out there. And so it makes or breaks a campaign. And, if you get out of Iowa, I mean, over the last 20 years, if you make it out of Iowa in the top 3, there's a very good chance that you can keep that momentum going to New Hampshire and then work that into Super Tuesday.
South Carolina.
Yep.
South Carolina, exactly.
Now with California, too, but South
And
Carolina.
California, too. So, each of the presidential candidates, they have their own strategy on how they're dealing with this. Like, for instance, Kamala Harris, the shirt that you may have seen the shirt here. Kamala Harris, she's, here.
No, yeah, also read your buttons, but yeah, show us the shirt.
The shirt, here's the shirt, Kamala Harris for the
There you go.
people. This was given to me at one of her booths, at her booth there at the Steak Fry. That's a Joe Biden shirt, the Go Joe shirt.
Don't you have a picture of yourself with Joe Biden?
I did get a couple pictures of myself with some
you might.
selfies with some presidential
Yeah,
candidates.
I think you might have a
Go
picture.
ahead and show Joe.
Look,
There you go. There you go.
Well done.
Let's go, Joe. Joe is an interesting phenomenon in Iowa right now because everybody is waiting for the other shoe to fall when it comes to Joe.
Yeah.
Joe is in the lead legitimately, and people see him as a safe, as a good candidate, as a safe, as a safe candidate to go against Trump. Because he has a history, he knows what he's talking about, he doesn't take any, he doesn't take any guff, but he does have a problem with gaffes. And so people are just, his support is not as solid as it could be. And both in attracting volunteers and the volunteers that are working with it, but he's still in the lead. Now, Elizabeth Warren, she is looking very impressive out there. She's just looking very impressive out there. She's in a solid second place.
Energizer Bunny with plans to, just incredible.
It was
good
really
personal touch.
Out of all of the candidates that I saw speeches of, and I saw 12 different candidates give a speech, Elizabeth Warren was the most powerful speaker. Because she was doing, what she does is that she gets you right here and she makes you think that she inspires you. She can inspire you with a speech. We can do this, we have a plan for this. And it's just really exciting. It's hard not to get enthusiastic when you have somebody like that, and you can just feel the energy. And that's the whole idea behind this vetting process when it comes to presidential candidates. Can they take it? Can they inspire? Can they motivate people to go to an all-day caucus in Des Moines, Iowa, and sit there under the pressure of the lights and declare your support for that candidate? It's kind of cool, and from a political tourist perspective, it's a piece of history that we out here in Oregon, I call Oregon the Oregon bubble, because out here in Oregon, at least in the Tri-County area with a 70% Dem, we really don't see what's going on in the rest of the country, and out in the rest of the country, there are different there's different attitudes. It's inevitable. You have to deal with the Republicans and their opinions, and you have to people tend to be more moderate, less influenced by the progressive left or the hard rights. They tend to be more centrist.
I was looking at a poll, I guess, last week, and it said that we are in the corner of Trump versus non-Trump. 55% are non-Trump in this state. In California, it's like 60 or 65%. I mean, we are slightly progressive. California is incredibly progressive.
Right, but now, and then compare that to Iowa, where they're not, I wouldn't say, I don't know if I can give a number on it. I do know that she has excited the Democratic Party base.
Yes.
And in that sense, she has taken a ton of support away from Bernie Sanders. All right, which is interesting, and that's the other dichotomy that's going on. That's the other argument, the fundamental, who represents the soul of the progressive left within the Democratic Party. You know, in 2016, it was Bernie Sanders, you know, and he played it for all he could, you know, and played it to the hilt as far as, you know, well, in my view, divisiveness, but that's, but in actuality, you know, if he,
I agree.
I don't agree.
Well, 4 years later, the guy still hasn't registered as a Democrat, but that's another story.
But also, I think he's trying to get Republicans to vote for him. But on the other hand, but his ideas have.
But his ideas have definitely transformed the party over the last 4 years, and you're seeing positions being taken by all of the candidates that reflect that reflect positions that Bernie took in 2016.
Medicare for all, paying off student debt.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually having good, solid conversations on issues that Bernie brought up, so I'll give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
Now, who will be the standard bearer for the Bernie for that progressive left platform?
We got choices.
We've got a couple choices actually out of all of those. You know, you got Elizabeth Warren, you've got Bernie doing it. You've got there to a certain extent
for true progressives.
Yeah, for the true, you know, fully representing that far left. You know. There's another picture I had taken with me and Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, and that I have up there. Tulsi's the younger woman
from Hawaii.
From Hawaii, yes, there she is.
Representative, yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with Congresswoman Gabbard on like her on Syria, for instance, and
she says the Russians weren't involved in hacking the election.
Yeah, so and she did not have that large of a presence there, but her supporters were really enthusiastic, and so all 10 of them.
Good Hawaii girl.
Yeah. Did you catch that?
Yes.
But it's the truth, though. I mean, you know, it's funny. These smaller campaigns, they have the paid staff, these youngsters right out of college that are all full of enthusiasm and energy out there, you know, hoofing it for their candidate. And even Michael Bennet, Senator Michael Bennet from Colorado, he had like 5 guys, and they were all there carrying their signs, and they felt so bad for them all because, you know, here's the Warren crew, here's the Biden crew, and here's the Bennet people.
Colorado Senate.
He was there. I mean, I guess, yeah, he was. He had a presence there.
He's opposed to Medicare for all, among other things. Maybe.
I'll tell you who I did really like, and I took a picture of her. It's Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Yep.
Senator Amy Klobuchar is in an interesting situation. I don't think she's going to make it out of into the top 5, but I really admire her for her campaign because, first off, she's from Minnesota. And Minnesota is right above Iowa. And so she's working her inherent name recognition within Iowa. Second of all,
that's a lovely picture.
Isn't that cool?
Isn't it great?
That's a lovely picture.
And she's also a centrist. She's a centrist Democrat, but she's also a very productive legislator. She's had hundreds of her bills passed.
I admire her a lot.
Yeah, so she's actually gotten she's worked with Republicans, she's gotten a lot of legislation passed, more than, quite frankly, any of the other presidential candidates I read. The challenge is, though, that she epitomizes Midwestern centrist Democrats. So it's going to be a real challenge for her in these other states to really make a mark. But, you know, I think we have a wealth of riches when it comes to the presidential candidates that are out there.
Did you find people that are interested in Medicare for all? Was that one of the driving things?
Absolutely.
How about the Green New Deal?
But see, here's the challenge with Medicare. Okay, let me first talk about Medicare for all.
Right.
Medicare for all is an amazingly good concept. It's the idea of opening up Medicare from to all. Basically, it's a single payer system. And the biggest argument against it right now is the fact that many union members, which are very large voting bloc in Midwestern states, negotiated and compromised a lot of salary to be able to acquire good health care benefits.
What they see as good health care benefits.
Right. And, well, what they negotiated and they compromised with management to acquire. And they're very afraid of losing that even under a transition period to Medicaid for all. And I can't blame them. They're afraid. And they're afraid that they're not going to get their health care coverage, which they have compromised many a negotiation on and fought hard to get, would be lessened. It would not be as comprehensive.
Do we know for sure that that would happen?
Well, there's arguments for it and against it. Now, the challenge is that we have the current American Care Act, the ACA Act, the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare Act. And so the other argument they had created that as a way to achieve Medicare for all, but at a state-by-state level. And what had happened is that, you're right, the Republicans, since Trump has come in, has slowly but surely tried to whittle away at the protections
within
the
Supreme Court.
Even before that, when they were bringing out the bills into Congress, Republicans held it up until they could get their insurance buddies on board to rip everybody off.
And then not a one of them voted for the damn bill. Not one of them
not
voted
one
for
of
it.
them.
Not
And they
one of
were the
the
ones that
Republicans.
messed it up. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
I
well,
digress.
the point being, you can't blame Obama, and you can't blame Biden for that.
No.
And you can't blame the effort that it's the first time in 50 years that, it was the first time ever that any kind of healthcare, national healthcare system got passed.
Yep.
And so we have to give credit where credit is due.
Yep.
You know, right now, if we
That's
went for
still
Medicare all,
stupid.
if we had Medicare for all as the plan in 2008, or during those whole negotiations for healthcare, we wouldn't have anything right now.
True.
So
So I have questions.
that's just a reality. I mean, you know, the negotiations that came about to create the Affordable Care Act would not have been accepted would not have passed.
I have questions for you.
You know, so the point is, let me just state this, though, at least in my view. When it comes to Medicare for all, the only way that we're going to be able to get Medicare for all is that if we have the House, if we have the Senate, and we have the presidency, we have to have all three. And only then are we going to be able to create a system and have the ability to, and the flexibility and the finances to be able to actually implement it.
But, you know,
I have a question.
then he's doing us a hell of a favor because his negatives are so negative to Trump.
Agreed. And that's what's ironic about all of this. I mean, it's kind of like a little bit of pain
That's
before,
okay.
all this pain before pleasure. You know, it's like the idea that we have to go through these trials and tribulations with Trump to remind our society about what we really need.
But also that the Republicans have lied to us. Anyway, continue.
So I have a question.
okay,
So
go for it.
first question, and just write this one down because we're going to come back to it.
Okay.
I've been hearing a lot of people say that our wealth of riches in our candidates is going to be our detriment because the vast swath of the nation are centrists. They aren't far left, they aren't far right, they are in the center. I was a centrist for a long time until the right started moving way too right, then I went left, right? So now I'm still almost way progressive, but not quite. Anyways, so that's the first question. How can it possibly be that we have this wealth of riches and these great candidates, but they're going to be our detriment? So that's the first one. Second one, on the insurance issue and the union members, and I want you guys to know this and set this clear in your head. When you pay your premiums and you pay your copays and you have a $4,000 deductible that your insurance company isn't covering any of your medical care, now union members may be different, you guys have different plans, you are paying your insurance company shareholders. You are not doing anything for yourself. An insurance company is a business. In Business 101, the primary purpose for a business to be open is to make a profit. And with insurance companies, you are paying their shareholders. They don't care about you. And I've had Republicans say, well, I am not going to have the government manage my health care. The point is with this TRICARE, if you know a Navy person, military person or anything, ask them about TRICARE and they will gripe up a storm. Oh, the waiting lines are horrible. But when they need care and they need their medication, they get it, no questions asked. And you know who pays for it? We do.
Socialized
We do.
medicine. Socialized
Medicare. We pay for Medicare. We pay for grandma and grandpa. I'm almost at the age to be on Medicare here in like some odd years. But we pay for that. It's already there. And then you who aren't on Medicare or aren't on TRICARE, you are willing to pay somebody's house payment and ask if you can have your liver transplant and then be denied? Are you crazy?
Pharmaceuticals cost.
Okay, so if we have a single payer health care plan, you can go to your congressman and say, I pay my taxes. I pay for this service. I will get what I deserve to have in my health care.
Unlike
It's
private.
common sense.
Unlike private care, I mean, the insurance where they just say no, no, no.
That's
There's no
my
one to go to.
point. You're
Exactly.
paying somebody's friggin'
Right.
house payment for them to tell you no.
That's it, true.
Why is that not easy to understand?
Both Elizabeth
Anyway,
and
okay,
Bernie.
that's it. I'm done.
Both Elizabeth and Bernie say that in the transition of the new program, they're going to respect the union agreements were made.
Yeah,
There's going to
that's
be
fine,
kind of
whatever.
painless transition as
house
much
payment,
as
I don't care.
But no, but it's. And this is used as scary talking points by Republicans. I mean, and
Yeah,
Fox.
they're trying to say, oh, well, the average American wants to keep their health care. No, the average American doesn't like their insurance company. They want to keep their doctor. They want to keep their medication.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren
They don't
says,
want to
yeah.
pay $500 for a little vial of insulin. They want it to be affordable. They can give a rat's patootie about an insurance company.
Elizabeth Warren says you don't care about your insurance contact person. You like your doctor.
Yes.
She said, I don't know anyone that really reveres their insurance agent.
No.
Well, it's.
I was so mad when the Republicans ruined Obamacare. God, that made me so
Well,
mad.
they're ruining it. They haven't completely.
No, they
done away
did,
with it.
because, okay, so when Obamacare was first being planned out and the bills were first being initiated to Congress, doctors were supposed to be the vast majority of the board of directors for each state's marketplace, right? In Washington State, in 2009, I believe it was, after everything started going through, and I was all happy, yay, we're all going to get affordable health care. I went on Washington State's health care board of directors, 6 insurance company CEOs and 2 doctors. And I wrote letters,
for you.
and nobody answered me.
Unfortunately,
I've been on a vendetta ever since.
the southern states are particularly bad at covering people. I mean, they
Yeah.
prevented expansion.
Oh, they're
and
bad
so
at
on.
education.
What, in the South? Yeah.
Yes.
Alabama,
Yeah.
Mississippi,
Yeah.
Texas, and so on. Texas might
They're
turn
bad at
purple this
taking
year.
care of their people.
They don't care. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it boils down to race, in my view. I mean, those are all states, red states, where they have high African American and minority populations.
Voter suppression.
And
Yeah.
it's all part and parcel. I mean, it's interesting too. This when it comes to health care and it comes to the lies that have been promoted about the ACA and about Medicare for all
Koch brothers.
have been there's been a strategy behind it to cause confusion, to question the need for it, et cetera. And I do realize that public sentiment is changing. Public sentiment has changed when it comes to healthcare because more and more people have been directly affected by the largesse of by the profiteering of the pharmaceutical companies and of the insurance companies. I think, though, the challenge will be to how we make a transition from our current system and to a ideal system that Medicare for all type of a system. And I get the feeling that there's going to be institutional reticence. There's going to be resistance, and it's going to get messed up. And there's going to be challenges. in an ideal world, we'd snap our fingers and we'd have Medicare for all, but that's just not the reality of it.
It's complicated.
The insurance companies are too ingrained in our society to just walk away from it. You know, they're making too much money to just walk away and to not fight back and try to resist it. And you know, centrists. I mean, I don't like to use. I don't consider myself a centrist in the sense that centrist being a bad word or being a description of the status quo. I think it's just more realism as far as how we get from point A to the progressive dream. You know,
What do you consider the progressive dream to be?
Well, Medicare for all, being able to make sure that having a basic income for all citizens,
like
making
FDR.
Sure, like FDR,
Education.
having a good education, a
rights,
guaranteed
yeah.
education, you know, being able to get a job
Yep.
without having to, you know, just being able to get a fair living wage job. And so, you know, that's the ideal situation. But once again, society is so ingrained in the current mess. It's going to, you get that resistance.
Let me
And so
channel Bernie Sanders here. Despair is not an option. I mean,
That's not despair. That's
No, no.
realism.
But,
I mean, once again, and that's the whole
right.
basis of the argument. You know,
No,
you can have the pie in the sky as far as what our ideal, what we're trying to shoot for. But the reality on the ground is that we're not going to get to it unless we have a transition phase.
How many people that
Why
you
do
met?
Republicans fight it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well,
That too.
That's
but
what
on the ground though, I would imagine there were a lot of people that wanted Medicare for all.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Everybody would love
And
Medicare
also-
for all if they understand it.
Also, we
I mean, you
love
know.
people to come to the polls. One of the problems, I think,
Yeah.
previously, someone said, "Hey, we can't afford $15 an hour minimum wage." That was not a winning. That was not a winning thing. And we can't afford Medicare for all. That was not a winning.
Well, what was it? Oh, what was that guy, John Delaney, had said in the
what a
debate?
putz, what a putz.
putz. I agree.
And Elizabeth Warren, I don't understand why you're running in the Democratic Party if these are the views you hold.
That was actually pretty sweet.
That was,
I agree with that.
why would we run for something we don't believe in?
You know, and once again, the primary process is a vetting process.
It is.
It shows who has the character and who has the platform and the willpower to stick it out and to actually want to make it through all of that.
But also the ideas are tested too.
Yeah, the ideas, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
people debate in public, and you can shape that and see what ideas.
And Iowans take it extremely seriously.
I've been
They
hearing
understand that they are the first in the nation to select presidents, and so select candidates. And so they take it very seriously. Somebody was telling me, a friend of mine was telling me that, you know, they can't consider voting for someone unless they've met him 7 times.
Yeah, probably so.
You know, over the course of that cycle. And they're all over. I mean, I went to that picture of me when Amy was at an office opening in Des Moines, and I just walked in, and there were all these, you know, 25, 30 people there, and I just kind of gambled in, had a cookie, and waited for the candidate to come. You know, it was just such a hoot.
She does seem a real sweetheart.
Oh, she was wonderful, and she was very friendly. She had a couple of elected officials there that were for backing her, you know, and for all the good it would do. And I did want to meet Warren. That did disappoint me that I didn't get the chance to meet Warren. But Joe was very accessible. Steve, a couple of
Buttigieg.
Booker was relatively accessible. I couldn't take a selfie with him because he had to go run away, but he did shake my hand real quick. You know, and Warren. Oh, one thing about Warren too. Okay, so she gives her speech, and then she goes over to a booth so that she can do the selfies, you know, the infamous selfie
I think
booth.
that's so great that she does that.
She actually kind of bummed a couple hundred people out because she had to leave to go to another event, so she could only do selfies for like an hour and a half.
Oh, what a
I
lazy
know it.
person.
I was
Hour and
so
a
kind of disappointed. I was thinking, oh man, she might you don't want to make these caucus goers mad, don't.
Yeah.
But but it was realistic. I mean, she had to go to
Hour and a half, you gotta go to the bathroom. You
The
gotta go to
line,
sleep.
the
Yeah.
selfie line
Yeah.
was so large. I mean, there were hundreds in there waiting for a selfie for her, and I would have joined that line too.
I loved her for a long time.
It would have
I used
been
to watch her on CNBC back in 2008.
What's
Her
exciting?
biography is great.
Yeah.
Well, another impression was how human the presidential candidates are when you meet them face to face or in this kind of a setting. When you see these presidential candidates on TV, it's easy for them to seem larger than life and to have a certain
Remote.
image impressed upon you about them, that you create in your head. But when you meet them face to face, they're down to earth. They're real
yeah.
people, and they're just like you and I. I mean, Joe was cool. Amy was kind. You know, Steve Bullock was friendly. Booker, you know, they were human. They were human.
Let me talk about what's going to happen. We're almost closing the time now.
Yeah.
We have 6 committees, or 5 or 6 committees that are investigating Trump and so on too. We have the House Judiciary Committee. Chairman is Gerald Nadler. The House Oversight Committee, Elijah Cummings, who has his own cooking thing, one specialty down there, and the House and Ways Committee with Richard Neal, who is, I guess, slowly getting the tax returns, but you want him to move faster. House Intelligence with pencil neck Adam Schiff. Boy, can I clap for Adam Schiff.
Yay! I love that guy.
And
Courageous.
Senate Intelligence Committee member is Warner as well, Republican, Democrat Mark Warner from Virginia, I guess. West Virginia, something like that.
You
But
have
anyway, and-
Republican Chairman Mark Warner.
no, yeah, Burr is the head of the committee. But
Oh, I see.
Burr has actually been rather, for a Republican, he hasn't been that bad. So this time, we're also this week having Volker come
Gonna
and
be
testify,
speaking, yeah.
who was ex-ambassador and so on, too, that was sent on by Trump to investigate what was going on in Ukraine. That's going to be very interesting. And we also, Mary Yovanovitch, the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, will also testify that on
She got
October
fired.
11th. Good for her. Even though Pompeo says you cannot come, and they say, no, we're going to show up.
We're going to show up anyway.
And
Good.
Pompeo is absolutely refused. So this is going to be this week. You know, this is time for the popcorn. I mean, this is, aren't you?
Grassley woke up today. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that.
He
Yeah,
woke up.
this is a serious event. Yeah, this is,
Yeah.
this
Well,
is.
one thing I can just tell everybody that's watching is, grab the popcorn, but as the button says, vote blue no matter who.
Yes. Yes, blue no matter what. Yeah.
And then also, of course, for the objective of making Orwell fiction again.
Yes.
This was one of the buttons.
Buy fake news, buy
Please.
fake news.
Make Orwell fiction again.
Yeah.
So, I got a lot of buttons, too. I wish I had another hour to be able to show off all of this stuff that I
No, but
learned about
gee,
Iowa.
your pictures are great.
Just really, but the 30-second, 1 30-second observation. When it comes to people on the ground in Iowa, I think we share with them a real disgust about what Trump has done to our country.
Yeah.
And a real desire and a fury
Yes, most of
to
us.
make the change, to do something about it. So what we're talking about here today when it comes to the impeachment hearings, pay attention to that. Pay attention to that, because these people are putting their, I feel strongly, putting their lives on their line to be able to
Whistleblower
out
might
of
do things,
out of patriotism.
Adam Schiff has been threatened many, many, many a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so
Today, too.
that's right. And so stay involved, folks.
Another reason why he should be impeached, making these threats, threatening civil war
congressmen.
and so on too. But yeah.
To our elected officials.
Yeah,
It's
treason. He's treasonous,
ridiculous.
says Trump. Yeah, no.
That's just- that goes beyond the pale.
What are you going to be watching? You're going to be watching the House
I cannot
committees?
wait.
Yeah.
I am really looking forward to it. I want to know. I'll be watching.
Sure.
I'll be watching those. And admittedly, Twitter helps too, because you can kind of get the reports.
I
and-
love. Well, I'm starting to love Twitter. Do you think that Trump should be stopped from Twittering because of the threats?
No, we need all the evidence we can
but
gather.
no, but Kamala Harris says he's threatening people. And
He is.
Twitter rules are you cannot threaten people, and so
Well,
what he is.
He's not above the law, but
No, I agree. He should be silenced. I agree. But I mean, if Kamala Harris says, if on Twitter in the private world you have to be civil. That's the name of the game. Right. And if you're uncivil, if you're inciting violence in any way, then you should be denied. And she quoted the rules
there's a
on
real
Twitter.
argument to be said that he is breaking those rules.
he
Absolutely.
is. And he has been daily for a long time.
What are you going to be doing? You're going to be watching TV a lot? You just got married.
Yeah, I do.
Yay!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I do a lot on Twitter, a lot on Facebook, a lot on MSNBC, and I read the Washington Post, and I read the New York Times when I can. So
Great.
just be out there, keep your eyes open. No Fox News.
No Fox News. I love that.